What's it? Somebody look easy.
Oh yeah, what are these? Oh, they're the new squidgies.
I reckon these were left by a pro angler.
Do you reckon we catch as many fish as a pro?
Nah.
Yeah.
G'day, Starlo here, and I'm down at the Shaving Point boat ramp at Metung, which is normally where the entire fleet would launch. But because of the wind forecast today, they're letting the anglers tow their boats to whatever ramp they want to launch from. So far, not too much wind. It really blew yesterday. Let's hope they get better conditions today and find a few fish. It's been tough. Let's have a talk to some of the anglers and see what their plans are for day one.
I'm heading to Newlands Arm.
Right.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Pre-fish was pretty ordinary, put it this way. I saw the fish, but they just weren't biting.
And I guess you ruled a few places out.
Yes, yes, that's right. Where not to go. That's the number one purpose for the pre-fish.
All right, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Going out to Paynesville. Yeah, going out there to give it a crack.
How'd you go in pre-fish?
I got one good one out there. Yeah, saw some big fish, so hopefully I can tempt them again and yeah, bring home a big bag.
And hopefully it doesn't blow too hard.
Yeah, well, yeah, it doesn't worry me too much in this boat, but yeah, let's hope.
Fair enough. All right, good luck.
Thank you.
I'm heading off to Paynesville this morning.
Okay.
Going to fish the jetties around there.
Was that a plan you developed from yesterday?
No, I started at Hollands and then nothing there yesterday. That's where I normally fish when I fish tournaments here, and no fish there, so off to Paynesville.
Off to Newlands.
Okay.
I saw some fish there the day before yesterday as I was just walking around the bank. I'm not sure if they're catchable, but they're the bigger fish, so that's where I'm going to go.
Plan is silk jetties this morning, and we'll get out onto the flats hopefully and throw some hard bodies, which I enjoy doing. Hopefully the wind doesn't get up too much, so we'll see how we go. A bit of slap and dash. We'll see how we go. Thanks.
Plans to go to the Nicholson, hit the reef, see what happens just before the
How'd
wind
you
gets
go
up.
yesterday?
I just spent too much time trying to eliminate spots.
And were you able to do that?
Yes, I was.
I'm going to go to fish around the Mitchell River, all the snags and a few flats down there.
How
Hopefully.
did you do in pre-fish?
No good. It's got blown off the water. Yeah, sort of, it's pretty hard all day, but it's off the water by about 12.
So it's a clean slate today, really.
Going on memory today, memories and hopes.
Good on you.
All right,
Good luck.
see ya. Bye.
Launching at the Nico and fishing Jones's Bay,
Is
hopefully.
that based on what you found yesterday?
Based on nothing I found yesterday, just past experience. It was very windy yesterday and yeah, pretty hard to get along with.
Of course I've got a plan. Whether I can work it out or not, well, that's a whole other story. But yeah, no, head down to fish on the flats like I normally do. I'm normally a flats fisherman, so yeah, that's what I'll be up to.
Probably hit one of the rivers, maybe the Mitchell.
You haven't even decided yet?
Haven't decided. We'll decide on the water, yep.
Okay, where are you going to launch?
Just out at Paynesville.
Righto.
And make the decision there, yeah.
And how did you go in the pre-fish?
Not that great. Got a couple bites, but yeah, nothing to brag about. So hopefully we can convert some big ones today.
Good on you, good luck.
Thank you.
What's your plan?
Very good. Go and get them. Go and get them as early as I possibly can. So the wind's going to come up. So yeah.
Where are you going to launch?
Down at Lakes.
I'm heading up to Nico and giving it the best shot I got.
Do any good yesterday?
Nah, I've been in here 8 days now and I've got one brim.
It was pretty tough yesterday, but in the end, got a few yesterday, but hopefully today they come on, but we'll see what happens. Heading up to Nico and we'll see if we can get a few on the flats at the start and go up the rivers and go from there.
Well, after this big blow, I think I'm going to hit up some flats, so see how we go, yeah.
Did you do any good yesterday?
I got a few, probably wasn't how it can be here, but yeah, we'll see how we go, yeah.
Where are you headed this morning?
Nico.
Yeah?
So yeah, head out there and see how we go.
Was that based on yesterday's results?
Yeah.
I found them on the flats yesterday, so I'm just going to go back there and tackle them.
Where are you going to launch?
Nicholson.
What's your plan?
Make it up on the go because I didn't get a bite yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, didn't get a bite, mate.
Well, I pre-fished Tambo yesterday, didn't do any good, so try fresh water and go to Nico. Try that today and see what happens. I can always come back to the Tambo later on in the day if I need to.
What's your plan?
Dunno. I was going to launch here, and then I said to myself when I got up this morning, if it was a bit breezy, I'll probably go and head up one of the rivers. So I'm going to go and put it up the Nico and work it out from there. I might pull out of there and come back over here. I don't know, mate. I didn't catch a fish yesterday, so just go and work it out today. The good thing is, it sounds like nobody really caught too many fish, so all those areas where you think they're there, they didn't feed yesterday. Well, they didn't get hit by lures, so...
Nah, grind away today, see what happens, because it's going to be very tough, I reckon. It's just one of those times a year fish are in and out of spawn and they're wandering off and they're like homeless bums with no idea.
Heading to the Mitchell.
How'd you go yesterday?
Oh, I got a couple. Just couldn't get to the spots we wanted to with that wind.
What's your plan?
To try and catch 5 brim.
How'd you go yesterday?
I didn't pre-fish. I travelled down yesterday, so it's literally coming out here clean slate.
We're going to shoot to the Nico first up this morning. Try and sort of cover the mouth, cover Mitchell for a bit this morning, and then see how this wind behaves. And if it behaves, we'll go for a bit of a run and check out a few sort of sneaky little bits and pieces.
Good on you. Well, we're hearing the same story from almost every angler. They really struggled yesterday. Some of them blanked completely or got 1 or 2 fish, or at least that's what they're telling us. They might be playing it close to the chest. But I think you can say that the fishing is tough out there.
I'm heading down to the entrance, essentially. So Lake's entrance, I always fish down there. Fishing shallow. We could see a few fish yesterday, so hopefully we can catch them today.
We're going around Newlands, see how we go. Yeah, I haven't pre-fished, so I don't know how it'll be, but that's just a chance we'll take. And hopefully we can get out of the weather a bit there.
I don't really have a plan, but we're going up the Mitchell and throwing crabs. Throwing a curveball today.
How'd you go yesterday?
Didn't catch fish.
We're going up to Bairnsdale, Mitchell River. Didn't fish there yesterday, but I've got a little whisper there might be some fish up high. I couldn't find them down low, so I'm going up high.
Where are you going?
Oh, to Painesville, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I was debating because there's a lot of a lot of boats going over there. I was thinking I'm going to go to Tambo and go to the front there, but got a couple of little spots I might be able to get something.
I think we'll start around the jetties over the other side here before the wind gets up, and then I don't know after that. It could be anywhere.
How'd you go yesterday?
Struggled. It was tough. It's tough. It's been tough for a while, but there's still always fish about. Only need 5. Sounds so easy, doesn't it?
Go get it. The field are going everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny. I pre-fished the Tambo yesterday and I did the checkouts this morning. 0 people going to the Tambo with good reason. There was no fish there. I'm the only one here at Shaving Point. Normally I start here. There were no fish here also in pre-fish, but today's all about yellowfin. Going to go to lakes and either going to be hero or 0.
I think that's going to be the story with a lot of anglers today.
Indeed, I think. And look, it's here's my logic. I've done 5 tournament days at Lake Entrance. 2 of those 5 days I've caught 5 kilos plus. 3 of those days I've caught donuts. So that's a 40% chance, 5 kilos.
I like your thinking. Well, good luck, mate. And the sun has finally broken clear of the horizon. The weather at the moment is not bad at all, but it's forecast to get quite a bit stronger later on. Well, g'day and welcome. It's Starlo and Josh here at ABT HQ in Metung on the shores of beautiful Gippsland Lakes in eastern Victoria. And we're here for day 1 of the Shimano Victorian Brim Open. And it promises to be quite an event. We've got a field of about 38 or 39 boats. The fishing has been incredibly tough down here the last few days. A week or 2 ago, apparently it was brilliant. It's the old fisherman's story, isn't it? Should have been here last week. The fish are in the middle of spawning time at the moment, particularly the southern black brim, and they're all over the place. They're moving around. Even when you do find them, they can be hard to catch. We just had a look at the interviews that we did very early this morning with the anglers as they hit the water. And it's always hard to tell whether they're telling you 100% truth or not, but most of them reckon they did it really tough yesterday. A lot of blanks, a lot of 1 or 2 fish at the most. Some didn't even get a chance to pre-fish. It was incredibly windy here yesterday. Gale force west to southwesterly winds, not at all pleasant. It's windy again today, and the forecast was for quite strong winds. So far, they're not too bad, and the live feeds that I've seen coming in from around the arena, there are definitely places where you can get out of it. Now, I don't want to steal Josh's thunder because I'm going to hand over to him and let him run you through the leaderboard at the moment, but I can tell you that some of these anglers are definitely finding fish, and they're finding the sort of quality fish that the Gippsland Lakes has become renowned for. Josh, just run us through where it stands at the moment, mate.
At the moment, hearing all those reports this morning, we thought it was going to be quite hard. We almost expected there was going to be, you know, low digits, not many people catching fish. But nearly straight away, we were monitoring the leaderboards from, you know, 7:20 this morning, and we've already got 5 bags up there. So in first place at the moment, we've got Daniel Kent with a kicker fish there at 42 centimetres. That's quite a good one. In second place, we've got Stephen Pryke, who said he had a few little sneaky spots up his sleeve.
He did.
And then in third place at the moment, also with 5 fish, we've got Scott Cicluna. Fourth place, we've got Mitch Nichols, also with 5 fish. And then we're moving into people that have, you know, don't have a full bag yet. However, as you scroll down that leaderboard, some of them may not have been in range to actually get those catches through. We know a couple as we get down there. We know, for instance, we've seen the footage of Jason Mayberry catching a fish. He currently has a 0 on the board.
Right.
We've also been watching Steve Morgan's live feed over on YouTube. And although he has 0 at the moment, what I can tell you is he's seeing fish. He loves his sight fishing. He actually tends to like sight fishing as the day goes on. The sun gets higher, he can see them better. So he might be the dark horse come from behind. If he's seeing them, he'll work out how to catch them. But that's sort of the rundown of the full bags. From there, we've got Declan Betts in 5th place. We've got Mark Crompton in 6th, Jared Healy, Cam Whittam, Alan Neville. And then we sort of, as I said, we keep going down. But I think the first thing to really talk about here would be the main character of this whole comp, which would be Gippsland Lakes itself. It is absolutely probably the crown jewel of brim fishing in Australia at this point. It's now had 4 years with no pro netting. It's an amazing fishery. The biggest complaint that we've heard, or I've personally heard about Gippsland Lakes, is a lot of people come here and they complain that they can't catch a flathead under 70 centimetres. They can't catch a brim under 40 centimetres. They've put slot limits in Victoria, hence why we're having a catch, measure, photograph and release comp here. So rather than bringing back the fish to be weighed in at the end of the day, they're catching their fish, they're taking photos, they're uploading them to the app, and partly because of that slot limit, but it's working quite well as we can see. And moving back to the weather that we talked about, I feel like that weather being so bad yesterday, I went out for a bit of a sneaky little look on the water myself, and it was horrendous, is a word. I have a feeling that a couple of weeks ago, a lot of the locals were saying those pre and sort of post-spawn fish up the rivers were very good. They may have moved along, but they may have moved out into that water that just was unfishable yesterday. It looked like, you know, some kind of scene from a movie, how bad it was out there. Today, however, we did have that weather advisory that allowed the anglers to trailer to wherever they want to go, but it's panned out that it's actually looking pretty good. I think brim actually like that little bit of wind.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing you can have is bright sunshine and a glass out. That's probably the toughest conditions to catch brim in. We've got bright sunshine today, but we've got a reasonably stiff breeze out there. I'm looking out the window here at ABT HQ and I can see quite a lot of wind ripple out there on the more open water. It's all sparkly and dancy. I mean, it's nothing dangerous, and it wouldn't even be particularly uncomfortable to travel across the wider parts of the lakes at the moment. But I think having that ruffle and having that disturbance on the surface makes it a lot easier to fool these fish. They're very sharp-eyed. There's both species of brim in this system, both the southern black and the yellowfin brim. It's dominated by southern black brim, and most of the catches will be southern black brim, but when you do catch yellowfin brim down here, they tend to be big thumpers, and I know that's what Steve Morgan's gone looking for today, and he's gone up towards Lakes Entrance itself, and in fact, without giving too much away, I think he might be snuck up into North Arm at the moment. And it's really interesting to watch Steve's live feed on his YouTube channel, and just his powers of observation. I mean, Steve loves using his forward-facing sonar like most of these anglers, and they're really, really good at it. And people tend to denigrate that and say, oh, it's not fair, and you know, there's no skill involved in it. Trust me, most of the time, from what I've been watching this morning, he's been using his eyes, not that forward-facing sonar. He's just incredibly observant and watching what's going on around the edges. He's making comments both to his audience and also to the observer that he has on board when he can see an area where he can identify the bream have been holding there. And a lot of times that means that there's a clear patch. So there might be a log poking out, and underneath it, instead of having that silty bottom and a bit of weed and slime on the bottom, there'll be an actual clear patch where you can see the gravel or the sand. And as Steve explained to his observer earlier on today, that's because the bream are sitting there and their fins are moving the whole time, their gills are moving, so the water is moving underneath them. And what it does, it just tends to clear a patch. And if you see one of those circular clear patches, there's a good chance that there's either a bream holding over it that you haven't seen yet, or there's been one there just in the last few minutes and it's moved away, it's feeding or whatever, and it'll come back there. The other thing that you'll find on those clear patches is a fine shell grit a lot of times from the mussels and the barnacles and the other shellfish, the cockles, that the bream have been crunching up and eating, and then, not to put too fine a point on it, pooping it out. And that's what forms that pizza of shell grit and clear under those snags. The other thing you'll see on the logs is little white patches sometimes, and that's where barnacles have been growing, and the bream have come up with those big peg-like teeth of theirs and crunched the barnacles off and actually eaten them, and they leave the little scars where the barnacles were growing. If you see logs and snags with fresh white marks like that on them, it's a good indication the bream have been feeding there in the last little while. The other thing you'll see on the sand flats and the mud flats is little divots about yay round, and it's where the bream have been nuzzling in the bottom, getting the sandworms and pink nippers, bash yabbies, whatever you want to call them, out of the sand, and they leave a little feeding depression. You'll see big ones as well. They come from stingrays, but the small ones, and I've seen flats that are just covered with hundreds or thousands of those little divots. And they don't stay there forever. The tides fill them in and whatever. So if you're seeing reasonably fresh ones, it's a good pointer that the bream were feeding there recently. And those are all the sort of things that these anglers are going to be looking for. But we've got such a wide range of anglers fishing in this competition, and they'll be using so many different techniques. What do you think are going to be the go-to techniques, Josh?
Could be a bit of anything at the moment. I really do think yesterday, as I said, we got out in the water, we had a bit of a look, and they were throwing everything at them. Like, they were looking for fish, they were looking for post-spawn fish. Being a length comp, you don't necessarily need to find those fish that you know really still weigh a lot. You still look, so a 42 centimetre fish still gets the same weight whether he's she or he, pre-spawn or post-spawn. But there's a bit of everything. I know that generally Gippsland Lakes is very good for crab imitations, very good for those mussel imitations. But I've been reading through some of the little angler profiles that we've got here. There's people talking about pink grubbing. There's obviously jerk baits. The gamut is just completely wide here.
Well, surface works well here, probably a little bit early, still being in mid-October, but I bet someone will try surface. Bent minnows or stick baits on the surface, and then there's a good chance that they'll catch fish doing that. So there's so many different ways that you can target these fish. Josh touched on the fact that they're pre-spawn and spawning and post-spawn at the moment. So the southern black brim, Acanthopagorus butcheri, they tend to spawn during the very end of winter and then into spring. And it really varies depending on what latitude you're at in the country, where they what time of year they spawn. They spawn much later down in Tasmania, earlier as you go north, and up in my part of the world on the south coast of New South Wales, they're often spawning in September, October. But here, the black brim are spawning right at the moment, and they seek out a particular level of salinity in the water, not the pure salt water, and they don't want pure fresh water. They want a certain amount of parts per million, and that's so that their eggs will actually suspend in mid-water rather than sink to the bottom, which is what they would do in freshwater, or float to the surface and be carried away by the tide if they were in pure salt water. But when they get just the right amount of salinity, those eggs will suspend once they've been fertilised. So you've got the male and the female. The female releases the eggs, the male releases the milk, they mix, they fertilise, and then they're carried in mid-water and they up and down with the tidal movement, and they hatch within a couple of days. Now, they're a serial spawner. They don't just spawn once. They'll spawn on the full moon, excuse me, they'll spawn on the full moon a couple of times during that period. Well, we had a full moon only a few days ago, and these fish, a lot of these fish would have spawned on that full moon. They'd have done it up in the rivers, the Tambo, the Nicholson. They'd have been well upstream in those rivers spawning, and then they tend to come back down and go out into the lake, which is what Josh touched on before. They could well be out in all that wide open water that no one could fish yesterday.
No one touched
because it
yesterday.
had waves like that on it, didn't it, mate?
And one thing to think about also is they've expended a lot of energy. You know, they store up energy, they go up, they do their spawning. They're out there looking for protein now, and I think whether it is a crab or it's a bait fish, or you know, they're going to be looking to eat, hopefully. And I feel like some of the catches that we've seen so far, people were saying it was tough yesterday, and going back to your point, yes, I think the fact that maybe the central parts didn't get much action yesterday might be why we're seeing a better bite. We saw those videos. Everybody said they had a tough day. I don't think anybody seemed particularly positive, but catches are sort of telling us that...
Definitely looks like the fish are more active today, and you kind of expect that, I guess, with the barometer rising now, the weather settling a bit. There's a lovely big high pressure system coming across from Western Australia. We won't get the best part of it here until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, but tomorrow's forecast is a lot better than today's, isn't
Almost too nice. If I were gonna pick a day that I want to go fish, I'm looking out the window now. I think this is the day I would want to be out there. It might get a little tougher tomorrow, but we have nearly 40 of the best brim anglers in the country that have decided to come down for this first Victorian Open. They're going to work it out. They're going to key in. They're going to get better as they go. The more time they spend on the water on consecutive days, they're going to pare down what is working and what isn't working.
In a way, they need to get better because these tournaments traditionally get hard. The fish get tougher as the days progress because they're getting hammered. I mean, it's a vast system. There's an enormous amount of water in the Gippsland Lakes, but it's funny, you put 40 teams or 40 boats on here and they all tend to want to go to the same bits of structure. It doesn't take too long for those fish to start to wise up, does it?
Well, one of the other little tidbits that we've heard is a few people going to Paynesville, but we've also heard that Paynesville does not hold up to pressure very well. Like if it does get hit by, you have 15 boats go through and they give it a good, working over, those fish might get a bit sulky. So you go back the third day, there might have been many boats have a look in there yesterday.
Yeah.
Usually they won't fish it too hard, being, this tournament angler, they know I don't want to sting them. There's no point winning the pre-fish. You want to go out and do that on day one and day two.
Exactly.
However, it's still pressure. There's still, seeing boats. There's people making casts, and maybe those primo, docks and boats. These anglers might all know them, and they might have hit, that single place may have had 3, 4, 5 boats go through it and make a cast.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not only that, but we're also coming off the back of school holidays and a long weekend. So there's been quite a bit of social fishing pressure down in this part of the world. It's a very, very popular destination for recreational anglers. We're having a look at the map here at the moment. Now, we've actually got some air tags on some of the boats so that we can track where they are, not down to the square metre, but certainly what portion of the Gippsland Lakes they're in. And you can see that Steve Morgan is way up there past Lakes Entrance and up into the North Arm. We've got Mark Crompton and Mario Vukic down the other end. We don't seem to have anyone showing up in Paynesville, but that might be because we don't have any air tags on board those vessels.
Also, we can't see who's down at that very bottom end, Lake Wellington. We know a few people we had one boat pull out and put in somewhere else. We've also had somebody go the other way and pull out of where they were, and they've gone into Lake Wellington now. So they're probably going to look through that strait, maybe get into the lake. There are very big fish up there. Again, they may have looked at the weather, seen the weather, and it's not as crazy as had been predicted.
Yeah.
And maybe they said, I'm going to put in and try my luck where I know there are big fish.
The red dot, by the way, is us. That's ABT HQ, where we're sitting right now. We've got a beautiful view out the window here. And interestingly, we had one of the competitors turn up here within 30 or 40 metres of where we're sitting and fishing just 20 minutes, half an hour ago. Watched them lose quite a nice fish and then get what looked like might have been a small silver
Yeah, it was
trevally.
a little salmon he
Oh,
got.
little salmon, was it? He wasn't sure whether that fish he lost was a thumping big brim or maybe a silver trevally or a salmon or whatever. There's such a mix of species. And as Josh mentioned before, the nets have been out of here now for 4 years. All the fish numbers are bouncing back big time. But the brim in particular, as Josh said, this has become the leading brim fishing venue in Australia for these tournaments now. That mantle used to belong to the Derwent River in Tasmania, and the Derwent still produces amazing bags of fish, but this place can normally knock it off. You're going to need 5 kilos a day to be even within a bull's roar of a podium finish.
Top 10 now. Sometimes you need, if you're doing a 2-day comp, you over 10 kilos, you just be in the top 10. Like it's almost to the point where we're looking at 12 and 13 kilos for a 2-day, five fish each day bag, which is even 20 years ago when we're doing it, like just an average of over a kilo of fish was, that was amazing. Like that's all time. And now, like anglers are really, really paring down exactly what they need to do, where they need to go, how to manage those fish. And then of course just how good the fishing is here in Gippsland Lakes. And I agree, it won't be long until Tasmania is knocked off as the big brim capital of Australia and Gippsland Lakes takes it. Not to mention the flathead and everything else that I know are in here, and you hear about kingfish making their way in.
Yeah, King George whiting have bounced back big time. It's the odd mulloway being caught in here now. The salmon, the silver trevally, great estuary perch, and if you get higher up in the rivers, bass. It's just such a wonderful, healthy system. You're probably wondering, those of you who haven't witnessed this style of tournament before, where the fish are being measured and released straight away rather than brought in a weight at the end of the day. But we're still talking in terms of bag weights. And that's because the ABT has a very, very good conversion chart. So in other words, you can look at the fork length of a brim and get a fairly accurate, it's never going to be 100% accurate, because 2 weeks ago when these fish were absolutely full of roe, they could weigh 150, 200 grams more than they do today after they've spawned a couple of times. But it's pretty close. And the lengths that we're quoting are all fork lengths, by the way, not tip lengths. So a 42 centimetre fish to the fork is about a 44 or 45 centimetre brim to the tips. That's a big brim.
That is a big fish.
That's a solid fish. I mean, it's showing up here on the conversion chart as 1.671 kilos. Now, it could weigh anywhere between 1.4 and 1.75, just depending on what condition it's in at the time. But it's giving you, and because everyone's working to the same system, it's very fair. So it's a length. They measure the lengths of the fish and they upload their photographs, but then we can talk to you in terms of bag weights. And looking at Daniel Kent's bag now, he's got 5 fish anchored, as you said, by that 42 centimetre fish to the fork. But he's got a 38, a 37, a 36 and a 34.5. He'll be desperately wanting to get rid of that 34.5 and get another 36 or 37 in there. But already he's 5.913 kilos. That's an extraordinary bag of brim, but I will guarantee you that won't be enough by the end of today for him to probably hang on to first place unless he can keep upgrading, and that's what it's all about. Once you've got your 5, you go looking for the bigger ones.
Yes, then you're really tying on those big lures. You're looking for those specific, I just want to upgrade now. I don't need to fill my bag. In second place, it looks like Stephen Pryke he's using that idea of like, okay, I'm going to go get my bag. It doesn't look like he's on the class of fish at the moment, but he's sitting in second because he's got a full bag. So these are the kind of tournament tactics that they use. So you go out, you get your 5, and then as you said, you chase those kicker fish. Here you might need 3 or 4 kicker fish. You may come along as you go, but here we go. We've got is this Daniel Kent? So we've got photos from Daniel Kent in of some of his big fish. Like you can see they're quite dark. Look like a post-spawn?
Yeah, well, again, because they are serial spawners, it may have spawned once or twice already, and it still might have enough for one more spawning in it. So yeah, they get a lot more thick set than that, but I certainly wouldn't call that a skinny fish. It's quite a solid one. Yeah, we've probably got some vision that we can go to. Have we, Nicole, of some actual fish captures, which would be great to see.
So this is obviously Stephen Pryker. I don't know whether this is his secret spot or not. We can't tell quite where he is.
No.
But he looks like he's fishing pretty vigorously there.
Well, he's got to be working a vibe, you would think.
Yeah, vibe or a blade, it looks like.
Yeah. It's got quite a unique method of working it, but he's just obviously hopping it along the bottom. He's well out off the bank, and that's the thing. You know, brim, of course, orient to structure, but you can also catch them out in the middle of the paddock. Oh, and he's on. There you go. I'd say probably a blade, the way he was working it, and this is a reasonable fish by the looks of things.
Going back to what you're saying about structure, we have sort of noticed, again, we get back to the idea of the nets being taken out of here. I've also heard from people that fish are really starting to move back out onto those flats, those weed flats that for a number of years were not as good as they could be. Now, whether those fish were hiding up rivers and they've just started to move and spread out now, so maybe he's on one of these flats.
Now, there's artificial reefs too, isn't there?
They've got all sorts of... Victorian Fisheries does an unbelievable job, and that's something we should probably talk about as well. All this data will be given to Victorian Fisheries. It's something that they use to, show that this fishery is getting better year on year.
Yeah, it's very valuable data, the stuff generated by comps like
That is what you need.
No mistakes made there, and he's a happy lad. He's got a smile on his face, and that's a lovely solid brim.
I got to say, big thumbs up to his observer. That was,
beautifully
That's
shot.
that's much better
beautifully
fish.
shot.
Steady.
Yep, before the fish was hooked up. That's always nice too.
Always
they're
good to
on
get
the
the
job
strike.
there.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Another thing to mention is the net rules that came into full force this year. You could see Stephen there with the Environet. So one thing we'll talk about is, I don't know, how many years ago now was it Dave Irvine came up with it?
Gosh, 25. It's got to be 25 years at least. It's
so
older. They're older than the squidgies. The late Dave Irvine was a real believer in maximising the survivability of released fish, and he designed the Environet, which is now a Shimano product. He did it for Shimano, and it completely revolutionised our thinking about. We always used to just use those green mesh nets with the knots in them, and they do a lot of damage to the fish. They damage the slime coat, they damage the fins.
Well, even our producer here saw it within a couple of months. Nicole, sitting over here, told us that she was seeing less split fins. She was seeing, that slime the slime on the outside of the fish that protects it was, being kept intact. So it's something that I think should be at the forefront of every tournament mind, definitely, but every angler's mind who's looking to release. If you're going to release a fish, you want to take a fish for a feed, nobody is going to hold that against you. But if you're going to release them, it really is on you, the angler, to look after that fish as best you can and get it back in the best condition possible. And that was what Dave Irvine wanted to do, and what has been happening for the last 25 years with Environet. So Shimano's very happy to see that those net rules have come into play, and seeing many of the anglers using Environets now is a great thing.
Absolutely. Now, are we watching Stephen catch the same fish here, or is this another fish? This is another one, isn't it? Yeah. So,
again,
same spot.
Big thumbs up to his observer.
Yeah,
doing a great job there. We saw the whole capture.
I actually really enjoy this style of fishing. A lot of people say it's a bit boring, vibing and working the blades out in the deeper water. But when you know you're actually on fish, you've marked them on the sounder or whatever, and it's a very
That is what you need.
fish, and they really tend to climb quite hard too. When you get onto them, it's a great way of getting them. End up with a trouble hooking here. This is another cracker, and here he is again. With his third fish.
Yeah, no, this is fourth fish.
Fourth fish, is it?
Yeah, no, he's...
Where's he sitting on the leaderboard?
So he's in second place. As I said, I don't think he's quite on the class of fish right now, but he's certainly filled that bag quickly. And if he decides he's going to swing for the fences and go look for big ones, one thing we do need to talk about, Crikey, as he's better known, is the local, young gun, lives in Lakes Entrance. He's done a lot of both the boat tournaments and the Hobie Kayak tournaments. So he was
I'll take
the
away your
Hobie
29,
Kayak
mate.
Tournament Angler of the Year in 2022, I believe, and then he won the Australian Championships in 2023. He's a very accomplished angler in his own right, but having a
all
like
week
this
I'd
in his
been
backyard is really going to play
Nah,
to his strengths.
I watched it
but
all week
sometimes
leading up to that.
I think being a local and knowing all the spots can be a bit of a detriment. Sometimes it can be better coming in not knowing where to go. You look on a map, you think...
Well, you're more likely to try different places. If you don't know, if you do know a spot, you tend to try and repeat patterns. You go back to where it worked for you once before. He was very dismissive the way he let that one go. It obviously wasn't big enough to impress him. I was just having a look at his profile sheet here, and his biggest brim at the Gippsland Lakes is a 1.83 kilo fish caught ripping hard bodies into a rocky edge. His most memorable tournament experience in this part of the world would be last year's VIC BREAM on the Gippsland Lakes, catching 6.5 kilos and sight casting a 1.62 kilo fish that was chewing on a mooring buoy to start the morning off. Now that is a good way to start your first day of a competition, to knock over a 1.62 fish. So yeah.
Now, speaking of these angler profiles that we've got, we've got basically, we've had most of the anglers fill out a little profile there, and not to embarrass you all at all, Steve, but one thing I did notice, I pulled out a highlighter last night. I thought I'll just look through, I'll find some interesting tidbits, I'll highlight them, and about 3 or 4 times I highlighted into it, they've got one of the questions down the bottom there. Let me just read it out exactly for you what it was. Who have been your biggest influences or mentors in your fishing journey? And one of the funny things I found was that there was many that said that Starling and Bushy Squidgy's videos back in the day, so we're talking, what, 2002, 2003? As I said, don't want to embarrass you too much, but the old Squidgy Wriggler has probably caught... if I had to bet, I'd bet a Squidgy Wriggler has caught more fish in Gippsland Lakes over the years than probably anything.
Well, I think it's caught more brim Australia-wide, certainly than any other soft plastic, but perhaps more than any other lure, full stop. I know Fishing World magazine did a big survey some years ago of the most popular lures for different species of fish, and the old Squidgy Wriggler in Bloodworm came out as the number one.
Bloodworm and wasabi.
Which Bloodworm? 50 Shades of
they
Bloodworm.
all the Bloodworms work well.
I mean, this one, what is that? Is that dusk or wasabi?
That is actually a mixed one. That was originally, so what we did, I was telling this story last night, we went to the Squidgy's factory and they were showing us exactly how they make them, and they had, they do a very stringent quality control on Squidgy's, much more than you would imagine. You look at it and you think, how are these lures not $10 each, let alone around that $10 a pack? And they, with 2-color injection, they were trimming them off, and if they didn't make the cut, they'd just throw them in a bucket. And we said, what happens with the bloodworm? They said, well, we put the bloodworm back through and we reuse it. And we're like, oh, that's good. And we said, what do you do with the 2-color, the 2-tone colors? And they said, oh, we can't use that anymore because it's mixed. And we said, well, what would happen if you just picked that up, mixed it and put it in? And so some of our little promotional Squidgy's packs that we give to the kids, we do in those colours. So that you're holding in your hand is actually a wasabi that has just been mixed together.
Okay.
So we recycled, we tried to limit how much we wasted.
Of course, yeah.
But I think it's pretty good colour. There's a few good colours in there.
And, if I had someone asked me just recently to nominate my absolute top brim lure, and without hesitation, I identified the Squidgy Wriggler, but particularly in this size, the 100 mil.
Yeah.
And 100 mil is a bit deceptive because to measure it, they actually straighten it out like that. So it's 100 mil long when it's straight, but 100 mil sounds like a big lure. The 100 mil is not a massive lure. There is a smaller Wriggler, of course, but I like the 100 mil. And what I do probably about 60 or 70% of the time when I rig one of these is I run a system that Bushy and Slick Wright nicknamed the drover's dog. And what I do is I get my braid scissors and I cut about 1/2 centimetre off the nose of the lure, make it flat, and then I trim that dorsal fin off the back. And if I'm being really pedantic about it, I'll even take the first couple of ribs out of the front, just trim it down slightly. So it just gives it more of a worm-like longer profile, and then I rig it on the lightest jig head that I can get away with in the situation that I'm fishing. So that's going to be dictated by depth, strength of current, how much wind's blowing. But the lighter it is and the more hang time it's got, as long as it's not so light that the lure stops swimming on the drop, and that's really important. You need to watch what your lure's doing as it's dropping through the water, because that's when a lot of your brim takes will happen, when that lure's actually sinking, being pulled towards the bottom by the jig head. But I'll go for the lightest one that I can, and that, to me, whether it's bloodworm, whether it's wasabi, whether it's one of these mixes, but that trimmed down 100mm, that is my go-to brim lure anywhere in Australia. It'll be the first thing I'll tie on when I fish a new system chasing brim, and it'll probably be the lure I end up catching the majority of my fish on in that system, that slightly trimmed down 100mm. Now, you say, well, why don't they just build them like that? Well, there's lots of times when you want that little bit more bulk and a little bit more presence in the water. For example, if I was targeting flathead or school mulloway, I would leave it untrimmed because I want it to have a little bit more of a signature in the water and a little bit more presence. But brim can be really finicky at times, as we all know, a very pernickety fish, and sometimes that trimmed down bloodworm or wasabi wriggler is what you need to catch them. But boy, we're going to see a lot of different styles of lure used over the weekend.
Before you get off that, I have one question. Well, there's one question I and probably every viewer out there right now has. Why is it called a drover's dog? Who gave it that name, and why is it drover's dog?
Well, there's a long gag about it. But,
I thought it was just because it was skinny. I could just imagine a kelpie that hadn't been fed enough.
Yeah,
and that was why. Okay,
you stick with that because there's young people watching this as well.
I actually thought that was the truth.
All right, has anything changed on the leaderboard while we've been prattling on?
Yes, and we will do that for a little while. But looks like positions haven't moved. I don't see any bigger fish. We might look down the bottom to see.
Still at least close to half the field showing as not. Oh, there's a couple more down there.
Yeah, no,
now.
we're
So
above
down
half
to,
on the board.
Less than half.
But then again, we've still got Maybury down there that's got all zeros, and we know he's got one. And then I'd love to see how Steve Morgan's going. Going back to one thing we were talking about before, in Steve Morgan talking on his live stream. ABT's motto, since I can remember, I've been fishing in ABT's, I think it's nearly 20 years. Their motto has always been "Who shares wins." And one thing that I've really noticed, a lot of Saturdays when I've got nothing to do, I'm just sort of I'm laying in bed, I'm going to have a nice relaxed Saturday, and there happens to be an ABT on. I'll pop on Steve Morgan's live stream. For anybody out there looking to, up their game, lure fishing, brim fishing, just tactics, things. Watching Steve Morgan live stream, he will just talk through exactly what he's doing, exactly what he's thinking in his head. Like, even fishing on his own, he'll have no observer, and you'll think, does he talk to himself like this all the time? But it's very, informative. He's always willing to share exactly what he's doing, the thinking behind it, and I think that's something that you have been as well for many years. But yeah, I can't recommend highly enough, popping on Steve Morgan's live stream just to watch and see what he shares.
Well, it's quite an honour to be able to just sit in the back of his boat, which is effectively what you're doing when you're watching that live stream, and see the decision-making processes that he uses, the powers of observation that he's employing to find and catch fish, and he's always thinking. His tackle choices, I had a look at his gear this morning and he had 4 or 5 spin outfits, but he also had a BFS bait caster outfit there with slightly heavier line on it that he was going to use in a couple of very specific scenarios. He had fluorocarbon line on most of his outfits, but he had braid with a long leader on a couple of the others. And it's not just random choices. He decides which one of those he's going to use. depending on what scenario he's facing. I know that when he throws his little hard-bodied lures with the fine gauge little trebles on them, he loves fishing the fluorocarbon straight through. It's got that little bit of stretch in it, doesn't pull hooks quite as much, seems to stay connected to the fish better than the braid and leader setup. Whereas if he's tweaking soft plastics out in deeper water, or what he was really hoping to do this morning was bounce a little crab, one of the cranker crabs, right up there between some pylons and under a jetty into absolute tiger country with his bait caster gear, drag screwed up, and if he'd got a fish, it's virtually point the rod at the fish and crank and get it out of there, because if it takes a foot of line off you, in fact, it doesn't even have to take a foot of line off you, it's only got to arc to one side or the other, and it's going to cut you
away you go.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if later on in the session, with this weather being less than was said, he has a little spot just up here that he's nicknamed the Ramp of Death. So I wonder if we're going to see. In fact, producer Nicole, can we just swap over to Steve's stream real quick and see what he's doing?
No.
No, we
apparently
can't.
not.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to cut
That's
away.
too hard. He's on another channel. Do we have any more fish capture?
Do you want to go through the angler updates that they've sent through?
Yeah, let's do that.
Hello, I'm Alex Franchuk. I'm fishing Victorian Open today, and I only got one fish, 35 to the fork. It's very hard and challenging day, considering the wind and fishing the area where I fish. Obviously, I keep persevering and hopefully I'll get 4 more. That's the plan for today. Thank you.
Yeah, peace out now. If I can just keep fishing. So, Jared, what's happening this morning, mate?
Morning started off quite good. I had dropped 2 fish in the first 15-20 minutes. Just didn't stick. That was it for a while. And the wind started to get up a little bit now, and they're starting to eat a bit more freely. So we'll stay where we are for a bit longer and see how we go.
Right on the money, this is 9:30.
9:30.
Yeah, a little bit wet before that wave.
Yeah, I gotta watch my feet. Is this going to be a 38?
Would be the upgrade we need.
I'd say I'd probably get rid of your 34.
I reckon it might, eh? Like sneaking suspicion. He's going hard.
See that? What leader are you using? What paint?
4. Yeah.
Straight through?
Nah, 4 pound leader, 8 pound braid. You don't need much out of here, it's pretty open territory.
Yeah. It's a big bronzy.
What we need.
Well, that's wet feet. Yeah. Holy fuck.
That'll do.
report here, Nicole. Very quiet. One carp on a crab. Seen a few marks, but they're just not biting. Hopefully soon.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, g'day. Joe Mabry here. Just managed to get my first for the day. What is it, 9:50? Stupid me, left key tag in the car, heading up to get the key tag so I can record the fish. Pretty happy with getting one finally. Slow morning with just a bunch of flatties, but yeah, I think I found a patch of pattern. Now I've got to get back out and hopefully get some more.
All right, day one update. It's about mid-morning. It's been a struggle, which I thought it might be. Missed 2 really good bites, but I do have 5 fish. They're only smallish, but we've got about 3.5 hours to upgrade. So get to it.
Well, fantastic to see those angler updates from the water and some cracking fish getting caught there. But there's been a bit of a development while you were away looking at those.
There's been a lot of development, actually.
Quite a lot of development on the leaderboard. Run us through that, Josh.
So we've had Peter Bruckle come from, well, not nowhere, I guess,
No.
but I guess it's one of those things where he's coming to signal, all his stuff's been uploaded, but Peter Bruckle's shooting straight into, like, currently in first place, also with a 42 forker for his big fish, but then we've got 39, 39, 38.5 and 38. Any one of those fish normally would be your kicker fish.
Yeah.
He's currently sitting at 5 fish for like nudging on 7 kilos,
Yeah,
which is a pretty good
6.789, which
Yep.
is just a phenomenal bag of
And
bream.
Daniel Kent in second place now, who like was leading before. He's still got his 42, 39.5, 38, 38, 37. So still very good class of fish. Just a little bit more for Peter Bruckle at the moment. And Mitchell Blomqvist coming in third place at the moment with 41, 38.5, 38, 37, 37. So you can sort of see that size class that you're going to need to be in the money this weekend. Fourth place at the moment, Declan Betts. So he's 39.5, 39.5, 39, 37, 33. He's going
It's
to
the
look
33 that's hurting him, isn't it?
and nearly anywhere else on the east coast of Australia, 33 might be your kicker fish.
I was going to say, if you're on the Gold Coast, that might be big bream.
Yes. Down here, you're looking to get rid of it. And then in fifth place at the moment, Jared Healy. So 38.5, 38.5, 37.5, 36.5, 36.5. Very tight little window of fish there. He'll be looking to, move into those 39s, 40s,
For sure.
hopefully 42s.
He's found a school of those, obviously. They're all pretty similar size, aren't they? All
Yeah.
the same year class. It's interesting how many more anglers have got their 5 now. How far have we got to go
How
down?
far have we got to go?
There we go. So down to we've got 9 anglers with their 5 fish bags.
And we've still got a good 2.5. Well, we've got 2.5 or almost 3 hours for the people finishing in that second flight.
Yeah.
And it could get better, that wind picking up a little bit, or,
Yeah, and the tide and all kinds of things come into play. And also I think the guys getting their heads around the bite, what's happening out there, where the fish are holding. I mean, it was interesting watching Steve Morgan. He's finding fish, but he's not catching them. He's seeing them and he's just unable to convert them into biters.
As I look down, we've actually got a couple more 5 bags. So
yeah,
we finish
okay.
at 9 for the leaders, but then Tom Deere in 13th place at the moment with 5 fish. Peter Nord as well with 5 fish, but also one of his is not registering weight, so he may jump up a little bit. He does have some small ones in there, but still we've got a couple of 4 fish in there. So it's getting much better.
Take us right down and let's see who's still... So you get down to 24 before we're getting donut bags at the moment.
But as we've seen, they may come into signal, everything may get uploaded, they get checked in the back end by some of our observers, and then it may get put up on this. So we had a big shuffle, we went to a break, we came back and there was a huge difference. But let's just run down the names as they stand at the moment. First place, Peter Bruckle. Second, Daniel Kent. Third, Mitchell Blomqvist. Fourth, Declan Betts. Jared Healy in fifth. Stephen Pryke in sixth. Scott Cicluna. Yep, I keep having trouble with his name. Mark Crompton in eighth. Mitch Nichols in ninth. Cam Whittam in 10th. Owen Pearce in 11th. Paul Holmes in 12th. Tom Deere sitting in 13. Peter Nord in 14. Alan Lavelle, Gary Carruthers, Peter Stevens, Alex Franchuk, Alan Lister, Jason Mayberry, Brett Crow, John Albright, and then we sort of moved down. Well, I think we're going to see some movement on the
There's
leaderboard.
definitely going to be movement in the leaderboard, but we're going to take a very short break now and be back with you in just a couple of minutes.
The one thing I love about bass fishing is the places it takes you. It can take you to the most scenic places where even if you don't catch a fish, it's still awesome being on the water. The aspects of bass fishing for me is the fact that I can cast my lures into crazy places, and every single cast, the anticipation of, is there a fish there? Is there not a fish there? So you're always on the edge of your seat. You're making sure that every cast is the best you can physically do. So I believe the importance of accuracy casting for fish, especially like bass, is the fact that if you're not within a certain spot, you're not going to catch those fish. Like I can cast in the same spot 5 or 6 times and I move that cast slightly to the right or slightly to the left, closer to the snag, I'll get the bite straight away. Now, it's not all about just trying to land that lure there, it's about understanding the rod and reels, having the right rod and reels in your hand to make the lures land where you need them to. You can't throw something big and chunky and expect to land the lures where you want them to. You need them crisp, you need to be able to understand the rods and reels, and obviously the lures that you throw as well. So like another thing is choosing the correct line class that you're fishing. I always fish a little bit heavier than what most people do. I think it's because I'm landing the lures in crazy spots. So I'm skip casting lures into crazy spots where if I do get a fish in there, I want to be able to extract that fish out. So I don't want to be fishing crazy 4-pound stuff. I'm fishing 12, 16 pound. So with rod length and reel size, it can vary in all different aspects of what I do with bass fishing. It's whether I'm in a boat or if I'm land-based. I chop and change. I'll pick up one rod if I'm making longer casts. So I'll use a longer rod like 7/6, nice soft tip, so I can get those long casts into the wind or wherever I'm fishing. And then obviously I'm doing little skip casts and stuff like that. I'm using a shorter rod, 6/6, 7 foot, that sort of range. With the reels, it's usually always the 2000 to 2500 size reels. I like the feel of that. The balance is well in my hand and I get a lot more control. Anything bigger, it's a bit bulky. Anything smaller, I feel like I'm overpowering each cast. A way that I love to bass fish especially is skip casting lures. So with skipping lures, there's all different styles of lures that you can use for skip casting. Preferably I'd like a fatter body, usually rigged up on a light jig head, so it does allow the lure to skip across the surface a lot easier. Now the applications I'd use a skip cast would be to skip it up underneath trees or to try and make the lure, present the lure as a fleeing or skipping prawn along the surface or a skipping bait fish, to present that lure softly, get that little bit of a different reaction from the fish. I guess it's not a technique you're just going to pick up and just all of a sudden start skip casting. It's one you've got to practice. You've got to do a lot of time on the water to perfect it and to be accurate with it. It's dynamite when you can nail it. As the old saying goes, practice makes perfect. Landing those lures closer to the structure will equal more fish.
Some great tips there from a gun angler. And I mentioned before the fact that the anglers out here in the field competing today will be using a mix of monofilament lines, and there's 2 forms of monofilament, nylon and fluorocarbon. Most of them prefer to use fluorocarbon because of its lower stretch, but there's also quite a few will be using braid. Josh, just run us through a little bit of information about the new tenacity.
So traditionally Power Pro has been really known for its abrasion resistance, but it put a few people off because it tended to be a little thicker.
A bit coarser.
Yeah, it was much more coarse. So what Shimano did was we said, all right, we want an 8-strand braid. We want the breaking strain to be more, the actual breaking strain to be much closer to the stated breaking strain, but what we want to do is keep that abrasion resistance. So what's the difference between your regular Japanese 8-strand braids and Power Pro Tenacity is going to be that abrasion resistance. So if you're around mussels or docks or boats or anchor ropes or anything that normally rub it off, braid having very little stretch, nice and sensitive line, its abrasion resistance isn't great compared to say like nylon monofilament. It has excellent abrasion resistance, but has that memory, tends to be much thicker. So tenacity was just the idea of bringing the abrasion resistant qualities into an 8-strand braid. And I've been using it for about 18 months now. Hasn't quite hit the stores. Should do so about the next month or so. But I've been absolutely loving it. Steve Morgan's out there using it today. He's got a host of like Shimano gear to have a run on the boat. So when you see that orange line at some point today with Steve Morgan out there, that's all tenacity on there. So he'll be giving it a run for its money today as well.
Good stuff. Now, speaking of watching people catch fish, we all love doing that. Let's have a look at a couple more of the captures that have been happening out there so far this morning. And who have we got here? Alex. Yep. And he's in around Structure.
Yeah,
he's up in Paynesville. Absolutely. Big reach. That's always the nervous moment, isn't it? Number one. Not harming your fish, not splitting their fins or their tails.
That's a nice fish.
That's a hunker.
Yeah.
Interesting looking at the different colours. You know, the ones that Steve Pryke was getting out there in open water were quite silvery and light coloured, and you get these ones up around the Structure and the snags.
Plenty of early morning captures. So all that doom and gloom we heard at 5:30 this morning at the boat ramp. You know, there seems to, if I was noticing a pattern, it would be that a lot of these captures around that 8:30 mark. We've seen a few from Stephen Pryke, and it was just bang, 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 and they all had 8:30 to about 9 o'clock. So
it'd be interesting to check and see if there was a lunar bite period at that time, because it definitely looks like it might have been moonset. That's a solid fish.
And we've got those nervous times with the net there. There's nothing worse than watching that fish.
Oh, that's a big fish.
Yeah. I wonder if we can match up which fish that is. Where's Owen on the leaderboard?
At 8:30.
Where's Owen? Oh, there's Owen. Yep. So that looks like it might have been that 41 centimetre, 1.547 kilo fish.
And that'd be about right. I'd look at that fish and call it probably a 1.4 to 1.5 kilo fish. So
always tell by the head on them, especially a black brim. They get those big blubbery blue lips that they all talk about. But you can always tell those big, old black brim. They've got that head on them for sure.
it looks like, yeah.
Let's see if we can spot which fish that
That's
was.
a sort of mid-range fish. I'd say that's a
What's
sort
your
of
guess?
38 and a half to the fork, something like that.
I guess 37 and 1.115 kilos.
Oh, you're cheating and looking at the leaderboard.
He looks pretty happy with that one though, for sure.
Yeah.
And then we've got Jared Healy next. Again, we're looking at that. We're going to have to check out that lunar bite period there. I wonder if that was that moonset time.
I'd say it would be moonset. Yep. Still a fairly big moon up there at the moment. It was still shining through my window at 4:30 this morning. So he's setting it at that sort of 7:30, 8 o'clock now. And it's often a flurry of activity around it. We went for the net shot, didn't have the fish quite close enough, had to put the net down, take another turn. That pulls well with them as well.
I'm going to take a wild guess here and I'm going to say it's...
Oh, that's a cracker.
Fish at about 1.2. A few more bites now with that fish. I feel like, so we're analysing this thing. A bit of a wait for him to get up though. Home might be, or maybe even angles on the water, but it looks like there's a hard body.
Just give me a glory shot with you and tell me that
shallower areas.
number 3.
That's number 3. Not as big as the last one, but
a lot of people think that Sambo especially was quite empty.
Yeah, up in the river itself. I know.
Maybe they're just out the front of those three main rivers, or some of the other smaller rivers. But
well, they're being driven by different urges. You know, there was the spawning urge, but now that they probably did spawn on that last full moon, now they're hungry, and now they're being driven by the urge to find food. So it could be prawns out on the flats, it could be little bait fish, crabs around the structure. Anywhere you look in the edges around here, any hard surface is just covered in mussels.
absolutely,
Aren't there a lot of
could not
mussels?
believe it.
Such a healthy system when you see that many shellfish, and the brim are crunching away on those mussels. That's kind of that's a bit like cattle grazing on grass. It's just what they're doing all the time. They love crunching away on those mussels.
Well, even just walking out there before, as we're watching an angler fishing in front of us, as I was walking down the dock on the backyard there, I could actually see, very small bait fish on there. So maybe they're chasing stuff like that. I do know that up the Tambo yesterday, there were large bait schools around, nothing on them. So maybe it is a bait fish thing. It appears like we might have a hard body bite. We'll probably get a little bit more information tonight. We'll do a bit of a call around. We'll talk to some of the anglers tomorrow. It'll be interesting to hear those stories tomorrow at 5:30. Although I don't think we're going to have a 5:30 cross tomorrow. Tomorrow, the weather is definitely forecast to be better. So we will have a full launch from the boat ramp down here. So we'll get a chance. Most of those interviews this morning were, waved down the car as they were driving up to Hollands. Tomorrow we're going to have the full field taking off from just up here, so we'll get a good walk down the beach. It'll be interesting to see how much more they open up, because we've obviously seen they've caught fish today. And
in my experience, the ones that are doing it tough will be happy to tell you exactly what they were doing, and the ones who've had a bit better success might be play it a little bit closer to the chest. But of course, it's all out there these days. You can watch it on these live feeds. You can see the leaderboards as they're updating. By the way, if you're in this part of the world, if you happen to live around the Gippsland Lakes or whatever, come down and have a look at that start tomorrow morning. It'll be quite a spectacle to see 39 amazing boats on the starting line here at what is it? Shaving Point. Yeah, at Metung. If you wanted to come down and see the start, it will be well worth having a look at. I was just blown away by the rigs this morning. I was making the observation to Josh that I've seen so much change in ABT boat fields in my lifetime of fishing. I fished the very first year of the ABT Brim Rounds. In fact, Steve Morgan was reminding me last night that at one stage I was actually the top money earner on the ABT Brim circuit.
$9,300.
Yeah, $9,300 I got to, which some of these guys will make in 3 tournaments these days.
Well, I think the first prize today is $7,000. Tomorrow will be $7,000.
$7,000 in one go. Yeah, and there's anglers that have won well over $100,000 on the ABT circuits. But back in those days when we started, there was a lot of little tinnies, little 3.9s and 4.1s and 4.2s, 25 horsepower tillers. Some had 15 horsepower tillers. And then we watched that whole evolution and the arrival of the American-style bass boats, which really came to dominate our ABT-style bass and brim tournaments here in Australia, and then later when they came, the Barra tournaments. But now I'm actually seeing a bit of a swing, and there are more crossover boats, particularly down in this part, I guess. Victoria is not renowned for having great weather all the time, so it's handy to have a bigger boat. It's handy to have some protection from the elements, and I was blown away by just the...
Their centre is going to be at Shaving Point at Metung and based out of the Metung Hotel. But head down to North Arm in behind Lakes Entrance and you have competitors catching great bags of fish, black brim particularly, right there.
Yep.
Move to Lakes Entrance and the yellowfin play a little bit more. Over 5 kilo bags of yellowfin brim have come from that part of the arena. Metung itself is great for big brim,
That's right,
but also river mouths like the Tambo, the Nicholson and the Mitchell all play. And at that time of the year, who knows?
First fish, which I suspect it might be, that was actually happening live right then. So yeah, it hasn't even gone up on the... Let's just scroll down to Steve and see if he snuck one in before that while we weren't watching. I don't think he did. No. So he's currently measuring his first fish of the day, so he'll be happy about that, but he'll also be disappointed that it is only his first fish of the day. It looked like a good one too. One of those sort of 38, at least 38 fork length type fish, which If you had to pick a size that's the most common out of what's been caught there, probably about 38.5 seems to be about the standard, and that's a 1.2 kilo brim. That's a pretty serious brim. A lot of parts of the country, that's going to be the fish of the month or the year or your lifetime. So,
well, I wonder if we can get our data analytics team on that tonight and see what the average size fish are. There is actually no size limit for fish in this comp, so it's something interesting because all the fish are actually being caught, measured and released, and that data is being given to Victorian Fisheries. You can measure a 10 centimetre fish. So
yeah, I didn't realise that until the briefing last night. That's really cool. And let's not forget that one of the important underlying motivations and going forward, the justifications for running these kind of tournaments is the data that they provide for fisheries organisations and for fisheries managers to make decisions about the future of the fishery. It's now that there's no commercial fishing in here, which is fantastic, that the nets are out and the fishery's bouncing back, but it also makes it a little bit harder for Victorian DPI to monitor what's being caught, because they don't have those tons of brim coming through the markets that they can go in and measure at random and check the condition of and everything else. So they really got to rely on us recreational fishers now to provide them with that sort of analytic data so that they can see what's happening with the fish populations out there, not just the brim but everything else.
Steve Morgan was saying last night that in order to get that data, they have to come through and do electrofishing, which is, you know, an expensive, time-intensive, and you can only tend to do a small area, whereas we've got nearly 40 anglers out there on their big, fast boats, and they can, you know, do the whole thing, like the whole area. We can sort of, you know, at the end we can say, right, that it was one here, they caught this many fish, the average size was this, and then somebody else was over here. So it is important data. It might seem small at first, but compared to, you know, DPI coming out doing an electrofishing study, it's very valuable information. So
well, there'll be at least, I'd say there'll be 200 or 300 brim caught during this tournament, you would have to think, and that's really, really valuable data to have.
It might even be more than that. I mean, if we're 5 fish, 40 anglers, 2 days, you know.
Well, we're only seeing their top 5 now. Those guys with the 5, some of them might have 6 or 7 or 8 fish by now. We won't know until they come in at the end of the day and we can get the total figures. Can we have a look at our air tags, Nicole, and see where people are at the moment? Might give us a bit of an idea of whether there's been much running and gunning going on out there.
Nicole, also known as our data analytics team.
She's good. All right, there we go. You can see a few tags there. The little boat icons are where we've got tags at the moment. Steve Morgan's still way up there to the northeast in the North Arm. There hasn't been a heck of a lot of movement.
No, it seems like
some of them are around the mouth of the Tambo, or is it Nico? Well, no one's near the Tambo, are they?
No. As we said yesterday, the Tambo was a bit of a desert. There was, I don't know whether it was a carp breeding. There was a lot of carp in the Tambo and not many brim at all.
Yeah.
We did hear a couple of the anglers this morning say that they were going to go to the Nico. And we're seeing that up there on the air tags. Jason Mayberry seems to be up in... Where is young Jason? Jason being our Shimano Pro Staff member, it would look like he's up in Jones Bay.
Jones Bay, yeah, he is.
Yeah, I can see that on there. So
Mario's up in the Mitchell, but as you said, no one in the Tambo or even on the flats out the front of the Tambo. And those flats out the front of the Tambo can fish really, really well at times. There's some big snags along that right-hand side as you go in, and they often hold fish, but obviously, anyone who checked them out yesterday didn't catch anything.
It looks like Mark Crompton might be out the front of the flats at Paynesville there, it looks like. Maybe on the point. Again, we're not pinpointing them to the exact metre. We're just giving a general indication of how that field seems to be spreading out. It'll be interesting to compare where they are today with where that movement goes tomorrow. Obviously, we'll take those air tags. We'll probably put them on the top 8 boats. I feel like we'll put that observed from Stephen Pryke's boat on there.
The gun cameraman.
Yes, he's doing an amazing job. We keep getting more and more footage from that boat, but we'll swap those air tags it'll be interesting to see based on, you know, the day one results, how this map looks tomorrow and where they are. But it looks like the Nico's doing all right. Can we go back to that map really quick? Thank you, data analytics team. So we had Mario was up the Nico, and Mario is currently, I want to make him feel bad, he's currently on a 0, so...
But as we said before, he may have fish. Yeah, that's in the Mitchell. He's actually up in the Mitchell.
Who was up the Nico? Sorry, when we say the Nico, I should clarify. It's the Nicholson River.
Yes. The big three rivers here in the Gippsland Lakes are the Tambo, the Nicholson and the Mitchell, and they're all slightly different in character. I've had great fishing in all of them, but they don't always all fire at the same time. The Mitchell, I would have to say, is normally the dirtier river and runs more fresh down towards its mouth. It's also got those distinctive silt jetties, they call them, and it's a big extended arms that have been built up over the millennia with silt depositing out of the river as it flows into the lake, and it forms these big natural, almost like natural break walls, but they're made of soil, and then they've got vegetation growing on them nowadays, and they're really long.
I feel like we just had a little update.
Ooh.
I did see the screen flash, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing Peter Brukel has broken the 7 kilo mark at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah. So
he's had an upgrade.
I think he's upgraded one of his fish for a 40 centimetre to fork. He had that 42 before.
He didn't have that 40 there before, so he's got a 42, a 40, a 39, another 39, a 38.5 for a bag weight of 7.005 kilos. I call it 7 kilos.
So he's looking to get rid of a measly 38.5 to the fork.
Fish most of us would be very happy
so
to catch.
1.266, that would be one that you'd be calling your mates and say, oh, I've got a good brim out there today, and that's his smallest fish out there.
But look, he's pulled ahead by nearly half a kilo over Daniel Kent now, so Daniel probably needs to upgrade 2 of his fish to catch up, unless he gets an absolute donkey of 45 centimetres fork or whatever. And they're in here. You know, there's massive brim in this system, fish over the 2 kilo mark. So.
Well, one of the notes I had here was that the largest fish caught in here did hit that 2 kilo mark. For a very, very long time, the biggest fish caught in an ABT round, I believe, was 1.99 kilos in Foster.
Sure was, caught by Chris Slick Wright.
Oh, there you go.
And the biggest black for a long, long time was a 1.88 that was caught on those snags out the front of the Tambo River by Nigel Webster, who will be a name familiar to quite a few people. And I remember that day very well. Most of us had struggled. I did. I think I had a reasonable bag that day, and Nigel didn't have a great bag, and he was coming back in. It was one of those days where the weather suddenly blew up, and it was blowing an absolute gale, and we were fishing out of the Tambo. We were actually based at Swan Reach in those days and used to launch up there, so the Tambo got fished a lot, but he'd been out somewhere else and he was running back in, and the big wind had just hit and the waves were slapping into those snags after what had been a fairly calm day, and just on spec he pulled up and threw a lure, and I think it was a soft plastic, bounced it off one of those snags, fell in the water, and obviously the brim are keyed in on that. When those waves haven't hit those snags for a while, the crabs probably get up on them and everything else. And that brim was sitting there and it just went clunk and ate it as it fell in the water. 1.88 kilos from memory, so yeah.
So written down in front of me here is Scott Wilson in 2024, a 2 kilo fish at one of the Metung events, an app event. Now, one interesting thing a story that I do know from Mark Healy, who won the round here, I believe, early last year. It was also one of those photograph and release comps. He did 2 back-to-back. He won Gippsland, and then he drove straight over to Malakuta and won there. One of the things he said, he was fishing up one of the rivers up the back. He reckoned on the app, I think, from memory, he had a huge weight, and he said, I actually think my fish might have weighed more. So as we were talking about, they can, you know, on the average, these weights are very good, but they can weigh more, they can weigh less. He was catching quite, you know, deep, very good sized black brim, and he reckons, oh, I probably got ripped off a 500 grams or a kilo. So maybe that 2 kilo fish on the app might have been more than that.
Might have been a 2.1 or a 2.2.
They can get some real weight around here.
Oh
Quite
yeah,
big fish.
yeah, absolutely. Just having a look at Peter Bruckel's profile here, seeing that he's doing so well and he's steamed out into the lead at the moment. His proudest achievement in tournament angling so far was winning the Hawkesbury round. His biggest brim from the Gippsland Lakes is a 44 centimetre fish to the fork, so his best fish today is only 2 centimetres shy of that. His most memorable tournament experience here was coming 9th and winning biggest brim. So that 44 forker was obviously the biggest brim in that particular event. But his highest finish here in the Gippsland Lakes is a 9th. So he'll be very chuffed about the fact that he's out in front at the moment. He's never won an ABT or VIC BREAM Classic here on the Gippsland Lakes. His favourite style of lure to use for brim is a soft plastic. I love this one. How do you prepare for events in this area from pre-fishing to the on-the-day strategy? And his answer was, have a couple of beers and chill out, not put too much pressure on myself because it's meant to be fun. And that's fantastic. I bet he's having a bit of fun out there today catching those fish too. And who have been the biggest influences or mentors in his fishing journey to date? He named Grant Kime, Peter Nord, Jamie McCowan, Troy Pearsons, and our very own Steve Morgan. So fantastic to have all that background info on all these competitors.
And of course, Peter Bruckel, one of the two Peters that work with Hurricane Lures.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they both own Hurricane Lures,
Right.
which a couple of local guys making their lures. I've used the Hurricane Sprat Stick a fair bit. Great lures. He'll probably be out there using those today, or he may be using some of their hard bodies.
Or he might be using a squidgy, but he won't tell us if he was.
He'll say it was a Sprat Stick.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at Daniel Kent, who's sitting in second at the moment, and was in the lead for quite a while, wasn't he?
Well, he's definitely within striking distance.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just got to get rid of that little 37 to the fork, and he might be in it if he swaps out that 37 for a 40.
He's been in the game for quite a while. He came third in the ABT Grand Final way back in 2013. His biggest brim out of the Gippsland Lakes was a fish of 1.83 on a jackal chubby at Holland's Landing. Holland's Landing is a real land of the giants. It's a bit of a Jurassic Park down there. It can also be as dead as a doornail, but when the fish are there, there's some thumping big brim. There's also some thumping big estuary perch in that stretch at times. Your most memorable tournament experience on the Gippsland Lakes? I caught a 10 fish limit, oh my goodness, a 10 fish limit of 12.945 in the VIC BREAM Classic, fishing with Phil Partington, and it wasn't enough to win. I finished second. Wow, imagine that, a 10 fish bag that are averaging nearly 1.3 kilos and you still only come in second. His favourite style of fishing is twitching jerk baits on the flats, and who doesn't love that? It's so much fun.
And it seems to be, looking at the vision we've seen, that maybe that's come into play today.
Could be. How do you prepare for events in the area? He fishes Holland's Landing end in the arena first as it holds monster brim, that's what I was talking about before. Then he'll search out jetties at Painesville and Metung before heading up the rivers. So it sort of sounds like the rivers are his third alternative, his plan C. His biggest influences and mentors, he's mentioned people like Bill Klassen from Freshwater Fishing Magazine, and nowadays it's people like Dan Mackerel, Declan Betts, Phil Partington and Matthew Keaton who've had them the most influence on Daniel. So really interesting to see where these guys have come from. Some of them are relatively new to the tournament fishing scene. Others have been doing it for years and years. And it's great to see the mix. Great to see they all get on well together too. I mean, before the briefing last night, we were all having a beer and there's plenty of camaraderie and laughter and chat and a bit of sledging, of course, as you always get in events like this. But
lots of sledging.
Lots of sledging.
That's what it's known for. If you can't handle the sledging, I think, grow a thicker skin. It's all in fun.
It is.
But in third place at the moment, we've actually got Mitchell Blomqvist. So he started fishing VIC BREAM Classics with Scott Cicluna. I got it there.
You'll get it eventually.
Loves the pressure of fishing against the clock. Personally, I've found that,
I can live without that.
Yeah, I like it. I love that little bit of pressure. What's been his proudest tournament achievement angling so far? 2025 AOY top 10. What's your biggest brim caught on Gippy? Was 1.93 on a crab in structure. So I can imagine that would have been some fun trying to get.
I bet that was Holland's Landing.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Could have been anywhere here. What's your most memorable tournament experience on Gippsland Lakes? 1.6 kilo brim pulled from structure, first cast of a VIC brim a couple of years ago. That would certainly be a way to open the account. First fish of the day. Signature style, favourite go-to around here would be flats with hard bodies. Again, maybe we're seeing like those flats fire after not getting anything yesterday. I'm very interested. This is
and it might have been where the fish were yesterday, but because it was so windy, it was just too hard to fish out there.
I was telling someone yesterday that I remember fishing St George's Basin, and it was so windy. It's uncomfortable. I don't think it's uncomfortable for the brim.
No,
I think they love it. Like we hate it. It gets to a point where it is like almost unfishable. It's not comfortable for us as anglers to be there anymore. I think the brim is still there and they're doing their thing. They're loving it. Everything's getting dislodged. As you said, that wind comes up and hits those snags, something falls off. They're in feeding mode.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps today they're out there. They've got that. They were always there.
Well, they had a break from angling pressure yesterday. They were out there feeding up on those flats, and today the fishermen have found them in that area. But we won't know all the answers on what they used, where they caught them, until they all come back in for the final roundup this afternoon.
They may not tell us.
No, that's absolutely true.
That can happen as well. And then, look at this. Mitchell Blomquist, as I said before, down here I've got it highlighted. Who have been the biggest influences or mentors on your fishing journey? He said my dad, which is correct for many people. And then just down below, Starling and Bushies from the first squidgy vids. Tell us, how did those squidgy vids get started? I've heard it from so many people that those videos were instrumental in changing them. A lot of people were bait fishermen. How did they get started?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole squidgy story is a terrific one. I mean, a lot of anglers who've grown up in more recent times and don't realise just how much of a revolution the whole soft plastics thing was. I mean, soft plastics have been around since the end of the 1940s in America, and they came into Australia in the 60s and 70s. We had the Mr. Twisters and then later on the Vibratails, but they never really got the traction that they probably deserved to. They were very popular amongst flathead fishermen down south and people chasing barramundi up north, but beyond those two species, they weren't widely used. And then that all started to change in the late 90s. And I think the catalyst that drove it was this whole tournament brim fishing thing and the focus on catching brim on modern sophisticated tackle, the fine braids, the graphite rods, and the lures. There was a revolution in hard-bodied lures. Suddenly we had these beautifully tuned little hard bodies that you could go out.
5+.
Yeah, but even some of the Australian ones like the Attacks and things like that, that really changed our brim fishing. And Bushy and myself, we were working on the Rex Hunt show at the time and doing a lot of fishing together. And we both went a bit mad on our brim on lures fishing. And we were mostly using the little hard bodies in those days. But we had a feeling that if we could find the right soft plastics, that we could do even better on the soft plastics than we were doing on the hard bodies. And some of you might remember the old bucket of bait that used to be around in those days, little plastic bucket, and it had a whole mix of weird eclectic soft plastics in it. There was plastic salamanders and frogs.
I was going to say the 9-inch salamander.
Oh, yeah, really handy. But buried in the bottom would be 2 or 3 little curly tail grubs, particularly the little pink and red ones. And Bushy and I started using those on the brim, and it was an eye-opener. We were smacking them, catching ridiculous amounts of fish because the fish had never seen that sort of stuff before. We couldn't get the right jig heads, so we used to make our own jig heads. We used to get mustard Aberdeen hooks and bend the shank to make it 90 degrees or 60 degrees to the hook, and then we'd crimp split shot on as the head weights, and we used to then paint them with nail polish. Little funny side story about that. I was walking down the main street of Merimbula one day with Bushy, and he grabbed me by the arm and dragged me into the chemist and over to the nail polish rack, and he said, "That's my favourite colour, that one there." And the girl behind the counter was looking at the two of us going,
I can imagine you.
seriously, it was to
in the
paint
late
jig heads.
90s.
Well, you know, bushy, yeah, there's so many funny bushy stories. But anyway, we were making our own jig heads. And it was at that point that the then owner of Shimano Australia, John Dunphy, came to us and said, would we be interested in designing a range of soft plastics specifically for the Australian market from the ground up, because they'd just gained access to the biggest soft plastic factory in the world in the south of China that was building lures for Rapala and Blue Fox and a whole bunch of other companies. Well, we jumped at it. This was about the late 1998, early 1999, and the following 18 months was just intensive development, design. We'd send our drawings over, we'd get the prototypes back. Usually they were not very good, so we'd send them back again. We'd get them to tweak this and tweak that, and we started getting down to where we wanted to be, and that's where the squidgies evolved. And we finally launched them late in 2001, early in 2002. And we realised it wasn't just enough to bring out the product, we actually had to teach people how to use it as well. So we started doing a series of tours, what were called our squidgy nights, and we'd travel all around the country. We went around the country 2 or 3 times, from Tasmania to Darwin to Broome to Cairns, and did these nights. And we'd had anything from, I can remember doing it for 15 or 20 anglers, and I can also remember walking into venues that felt like a rock concert where there were 300 to 500 people, and they all cheered and applauded as we walked in. It was quite daunting. But as well as that education process where we were giving those squidgy nights, we made the Squidgy Secrets videos. They started off, the very first ones were actual video, the old VHS videos that you put in your player, and then later they became discs. But we spent quite a bit of time making those. We shot a lot of them down in this part of the world, Malakuta and areas on the far south coast of New South Wales. People still watch them today because we went through the whole step-by-step thing of how to rig the soft plastic on the jig head, make sure it swims properly, how to work it, the tackle that you needed to use. And it's not overstating things to say that it changed the way Australia goes fishing. And
Definitely.
today,
I know there were a lot of bait fishermen who were like, they were unsure, they sit on the fence and they watch those Starling bushy like squidgy vids, and that was what really got them into it. One thing I'm sure you're happy about is we've just re-released the Bug, which is one of, I think, your favourites, especially fishing. I remember watching those videos, watching you like,
on the surface,
paddle those little bugs over racks and catching big fish. They're amazing. Now, can you still watch those squidgy vids on YouTube? I know that you have a YouTube video, YouTube channel. Starling
well, I guess I sort of remake them every year in a way. But yes, I believe I think at least some of them are still on the Squidgy's YouTube channel or Shimano. So jump on there and have a look. They are well worth having a look at, even if it's just to see younger versions of myself and Bushy when our hair was a little bit darker and we had a bit more of it, or I did anyway. Bushy's got plenty of hair.
Look, going back to your YouTube channel, I love watching some of the little, you do a Tuesday sort of recap. There's so much history. Some of the younger people won't know it at all. Some of the older people may have forgotten and think, oh, I remember that. But yeah, Starlo Gets Reel's your
Starlo
YouTube.
Gets Real, yeah, and I try and put new content up every week. Well, I'm probably going to take a break for a couple of weeks now. I've been working pretty hard on building the channel and it's going really, really well. So yeah, please do check it out, Starlo Gets Real on YouTube. I'd love to see you on there if you haven't discovered it already. Now, while we've been nattering, has anything changed here? It's still Peter Brukel up on top, and still the same weight.
Yep, Daniel Kent, Mitchell Blomquist, Jared Healy, Declan Betts. I'll see.
Scroll down a bit because there might have been a bit of movement. Well, there's a lot of fives now.
Yeah, we've got fives down to 11th now, and then so obviously, oh no, 1, 2.
Yeah, no, it's.
No,
so there's 11 anglers have got 5 fish.
Yeah, but they've obviously moved up, so maybe that was that weight being added to one of the fish. So Mark Crompton moving into 10th. Tom Deere, I can see, has moved up a couple of places. He was in 13th, he's now in 9th.
This is interesting, what you were saying before about there's no minimum size limit here. So Owen Pearce has got a 20 centimetre brim here, 0.192, 192 gram fish. So he'll be really hoping that's not part of his top 5 by the end of the day.
It's all good data though. So we're talking about those those sort of size ranges. We've talked about, we've seen a lot of that 37 to 42 kind of range.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure Vic Fisheries want the data on how many people are catching those smaller fish. We want year classes and to know. Like,
well, that 20 centimetre fish would be somewhere between 5 and 7 years old, most likely. These bigger fish, the biggest ones that we're seeing, the 42 to the fork, they could be anywhere from 18 to 25 to 30 years old. Brim are notoriously slow growing and notoriously long lived, and they just last for a long, long time if they get a chance. And people say, well, okay, the nets have only been out for 4 years. How can there possibly be so many more big brim? They haven't had a chance to grow to that size in that time. Well, no, they haven't. But there's also not 20 or 30 tonnes of brim being pulled out of here every year. So there's more big fish left for recreational anglers to find. And there's more of those 33 to 35 centimetre fish that are now getting the opportunity to grow through to 40, 42, 44 centimetres. So it's a real good news story. Oh, there's our air tags again. And look where Steve is. He's well upstream, isn't he?
he's a long way up there. Stephen Pryke, interestingly.
Yeah, so he got his bag out the front and looked like he was fishing well out in the open. He's gone up there looking for his kickers.
Yes, he may know something. He may know a pocket of them up there, again, being a local. One of the funny things I was going to say about Stephen Pryke, probably the youngest member of our field, if I look at his fish at the moment, he's got 38, 37 and a half, 37, 37, 36 and a half. Those fish might all be older than he is.
It's possible.
I mean, he's only, I believe he's his late 20s, maybe early 30s, so those fish might actually be older than him.
And he's gone up the river looking for one as old as his dad.
Yes. Well, wouldn't we all like to catch that one? But yeah, he's obviously on the search for the kicker.
But a real you can see strategy at work there. He found a bunch of those fish that were all very much the same size out there on the front on the flats. Looked to me like he was working a blade for a lot of them. And he got his 5. He's ticked that box. Now he knows he's got to go and find a couple of big kicker fish if he's going to go up from, where is he at the moment, 6th.
Well, the best tip for anybody that's watching that's not in a comp, that may be interested in getting into tournaments, you don't necessarily have to have the biggest boat. Sometimes the best tactics will win. And one of the best tactics that I learned early on in my tournament fishing career was fill your bag. Just your first goal is to fill the bag. If you think you're going to go out there and you're going to catch your kicker fish, we've heard a couple of stories in there of accidentally catching the big fish first cast of the day. But generally you want 5 small fish weigh more than
5
one
any
big
fish, yeah, that's right.
A full bag always weighs. Then go look for the big
I can tell you the sense of relief when you put that 5th one in the well, if you're bringing him back alive, or when you measure and release that 5th one, it's like a huge weight's been lifted off your shoulders, and I think it allows you to then make better decisions and think about where am I going to go to find the bigger fish and everything. It just changes your whole mindset when you get that 5th fish.
It is, to me, it was always like the benchmark. Just fill a limit, then go looking, and by filling that limit and saying, right, I'm just going to go wherever I think I can catch 5 legal size fish, it makes you a better angler. It puts you more. You put yourself in front of those bigger fish more often.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like I know that the first couple of years, let's say, that I fished tournaments, I thought I was going to go out there and I was going to, I can catch 5 brim easy, no worries. And I remember going out my first tournament as a non-boater with Scott Towner, so we're talking 2000, it might have been 7 or 8, and it was on my home waters where I grew up fishing on the Clarence River. I said, no worries, we're just going to go straight down there, we'll catch 5 like that. And he was like, I don't know, I don't think we're going to go to the Amber Shores Tavern and just slay 10 fish right there like you do on your regular day.
Exactly.
So tournament fishing can be a little bit different. Sometimes the most obvious spots have been hit by many other boats, and you're not going to get those fish. So there is a bit of an adjustment.
Oh yeah.
But if you know a nice flat where you can go out and get 5 fish and then do what Stephen Pryke is doing, searching for that big one, it's the way to go.
What you say is so true. I remember when the ABT circuits first started and we'd travel to these various towns around the country to fish, and you'd talk to the locals and they say, "Oh, so how does it work?" "Oh, you've got to catch five brim." "Oh, and how long do you fish for?" 7 hours. They go, 5 brim, 7 hours. What do you do for the other 6.5 hours? And it's like, well, mate, pay your money and sign up and fish in it if you reckon it's that easy. It's not that easy when you put another 20, 30, 40, 50 boats on there and they're all hitting the same spots that you want to hit. It's a very different game. Tournament fishing is very, very different to social fishing. The other thing that I always take away is something that Steve Morgan told me or said to me very, very early in my career with ABT and AFC style fishing. And he said, you're only ever 5 casts away from a bag limit. And he'd be thinking that himself very much now. We think he's only got 1 fish. He's only another 4 casts away from having a full bag.
And it can turn on. Like I've had many days. Another tip that I can give people out there that are thinking about giving tournament fishing a go is never stop. It can happen in the last 10 minutes. I have had days on the Bem River where I have fished for 6.5 hours and it has been terrible. And friends have paddled in, said, no, I'm done for the day. And then the wind picked up and I just went bang, 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 bang. And you can only be 5 casts away. That weather comes on, the barometer changes, something changes.
Well, you find that honey hole. I'll tell you a quick little story. A lot of people watching would remember the AFC, the Australian Fishing Championships. I actually competed in the first year of those and then became one of the presenters for many years after that. It was a great series and I know it's very popular and a lot of people still watch the DVDs of it. The only round I ever won was the Gold Coast round in that first year that I competed in it. And I was having a shocker. I hadn't caught any. It was a 7 o'clock till 2 o'clock round. And by 11:30, I didn't have a legal fish. And a weird thing happened. Talk about karma in fishing. I think it does actually work. We came around a corner, had a cameraman in the boat. We had a dedicated camera person in each boat. So the pressure's on. You've got to try and produce some action. And we've come around a corner and there was a young guy on a jetty hooked up on a big fish. He was losing heaps of line to this fish. And I could see he was going to get spooled. And I thought, well, I haven't caught any fish. I'll go over and give him a hand. So I nosed the boat in, let him step onto the front of the AFC boat, and we chased his fish up the river. It was a GT, a giant trevally, about yay big on brim gear, and we landed it. Got a photo of him, got some film of him. He let it go. We dropped him back home onto his jetty, and he couldn't wipe the smile off his face. He'd just been rescued by Starlo from Squidgy's and gone and caught it with a cameraman and gone and caught his big GT. It was now 12 o'clock. I had 2 hours to go. At 12:30, still didn't have a legal fish. I'm driving along and I saw a storm water drain and there'd been a little downpour in one area of the Gold Coast the previous night and there was water pouring out of the storm water drain. I thought, that could be a spot. Motored over, threw a squidgy wriggler in. It got eaten before it got to the bottom. Cut a long story short, I didn't get 5 in 5 casts. I think it took me 8 casts to get my 5 and I won the round. And with the first fish hitting the deck at 12:30. So, yeah, it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah. And another thing for people out there watching, if you are interested in giving tournament fishing a go, ABT does do the boater, non-boater formats. And I can't stress how good that boater, non-boater format is. So what it means, you'll have a boater and then you'll be randomly paired as a non-boater with whoever. You might be paired with Steve Morgan, you go out for the day. You will learn more in those 7 hours on the water with those people. You'll be exposed to different angling techniques. So you might be someone like you that just loves fishing squidgy wrigglers, finding those on the flats. You might go out with a guy who really, his jam is 80 foot deep, heavy current. You will learn so much on that day about, you can watch someone. It's one thing to sort of have someone tell you a story. It's another thing to stand there and watch someone on the front of a boat do what they really do at the highest level. You will learn a lot in a weekend. You'll learn more in that weekend than you probably would in 6 months going out by yourself. So they really are good. It's fun. There is camaraderie. Like we said, there's a little bit of sledging, but third or fourth comp before you'll get the sledging. But really, they're a great bunch of guys.
And I would recommend to anyone to start off as a non-boater, even if you've got your own boat. If you're new to tournament fishing, go and fish a couple of rounds as a non-boater. It does teach you a lot, and it also allows you to concentrate on the fishing. When you're a boater, you're thinking about, I've got enough fuel in the boat, I've got all the safety gear, are all the batteries fully charged? You've got all that layer of thought as well as your fishing and your tackle and everything. If you just go in as a non-boater to start with, it takes a lot of that stress off you and you can learn a heck of a lot.
You soak it all
A
up.
lot of the gun anglers that are on the circuit today started off as non-boaters. I remember very, very early in the piece around at Foster, and young bloke got on my boat as a non-boater, a terrific young fella. He had one outfit with him and it was a closed-faced reel. Remember the push-button closed-face reels on top of the rod? And I looked at it and thought, yeah. He ended up, I got to tell you, he caught big brim for the tournament on that closed-face reel with a bit of coaching from me because he hooked it over the racks. And I said, just keep the rod up and crank. And he landed the fish.
No thumbing that spool, is there?
No, but I've got to tell you the name of that guy. Chris Hickson.
Oh.
He went on, I think, to have quite a good career in the ABT.
He's had quite a good career in fishing in general. I think he's doing super well. All right, I haven't seen a whole lot of movement on the scoreboard. Have we got an update at all, or we're...
No, things are...
Yeah, we'll do a couple of angle clips.
Cool. Have a look at this.
Cam Whittam, again, we're in that bite window. I really do...
He looks like he's up the Mitchell.
Yeah, he's up.
That looks like the Mitchell for me.
Fishing quite close to the edge, so that's bucking our trend of guys fishing the flats. Again, I am interested in that time of 9:30. We're seeing that 8:30 to 9:30 kind of window. I'll also be interested to see what lure he comes up with here. Cam, I think, can fish a bit of everything. I hear he's also a champion caster back in the day, distance casting. So he's one of those
all-rounders.
What do they call them?
Polly. Polly wants a cracker.
Yeah, maybe. Good looking fish here.
Oh, that's a solid. Oh, that is a solid fish. See if you can work out which one that one was.
There we go. Let's see. Where is Cam? So Cam is currently in 12th place. He's got 37.5, 35.5, 34.5 and a 32 centimetre fish. Here we're going to Jason Mabry, the Shimano Pro Staff Angler. Again, we're looking at that 9:35 AM time slot. Great footage from the observers here. We can't thank the observers enough. So for those that don't know, observers are just randomly paired with some of the anglers, and they go out and just, send us all this great footage that we're seeing. Can't thank them enough. They're giving up their time. Also, learning a lot about fishing. You could get paired with Steve Morgan and go out and see how Steve does it. How much does a charter cost these days? It's a fair bit. So it's almost like a free charter. You don't get to do the fishing, but you sure get to learn a lot. Shimano Texplanations. This time, micro module gearing. So you find micro module gearing on various reels, but what it actually means is instead of in the past where they had big teeth on both the main gear and the pinion, and only one surface was touching at a time, what they've done with micro module is they've made many smaller teeth, which means more surface area is touching of those gears over time. What that means for you, the angler, is smoother winding and longer lasting gears. just come back from a little ad there featuring another one of those reasons. We were just talking before that little break about starting those ABT tournaments. We had Carl Jochimson up there, who started as a little 16-year-old kid up in Toowoomba in the bass fishing section of ABT. Now, like, one of the best anglers on the planet fishing the bass series
with a massive army of fans that follow him around and follow everything that he does on social media, and he's made a real career out of it and really done his country proud.
Yeah, and inspiring others to do it. One of our other Australian ABT anglers, sorry, what was his name, producer, analytics department, Nicole? Tommy Wood, who did quite well and is almost qualified to fish over there as well. So again, that ABT pipeline, you can start as a young kid, 16 years old, I think you've got to be to start your first one, but the world is your oyster from there. You'll learn a lot and you can go a long way.
Now, talking about analytics, we've been handed some interesting figures. So up to this point in time, we know of 144 brim that have been caught and measured this morning by our field of 38 anglers. The average length of those fish is 34.5 centimetres fork. So they're sort of 800 gram fish, so they're pretty solid. That's a really nice average. I believe there's a 43 centimetre forker has been caught now, which will be the big brim of the day.
If it's updated on there yet, but 43 is a pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Who's got it?
So 1.869.
Oh wow, that is a really big brim. So the old-fashioned 4 pound mark used to always be seen as the benchmark for a seriously large brim, and that's 1.81 kilos. This one's 1.869, so it's well over the 4 pound, couple of ounces in the old language over the 4 pound. The other interesting thing I wanted to share with you, we were noting earlier that there seemed to be a bit of a bite period this morning, so I just went in and had a look at the Saluna tables and also the moonrise and moon set. The moon set at 8:46 a.m. this morning, and there was a Saluna bite peak around it from 7:46 to 9:46. Well, I've got to tell you, that's tallying very closely with a lot of the fish.
Yeah, to what we're seeing in captures there, we've seen plenty of videos of Prikey. We've seen a bunch that have been between that 8:30 and 9:30. So
there was definitely
something
going on, and that will be 45 minutes to 50 minutes later tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see if that same trend follows through tomorrow. Interesting. People say, how important is it? Saluna tables, things like that. I always say that other factors like tide and the presence of bait, structure, those kind of things will always override it. But it is also an influence, and the more closed the system is, the less susceptible it is to those other forces, the more that those Saluna bite periods do seem to have quite a bit of sway. Moonrise, moon set in particular, but also moon directly overhead and directly underfoot. So those 4 times of the day, an hour or so around each of them, there does seem to be a little bit of a peaking activity in some species of fish, and brim are one of the ones that show it.
Well, I've always said that fishing, people ask, why do you enjoy fishing? And my answer has always been, it's like a puzzle to be solved. It's something that I don't think you will ever say, right, bang, 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 it's going to be exactly this. But there are little bits like that Saluna, you know, the tides, the wind direction, the moon phase, the Saluna, like those things all go in. And they can be, you know, 1%ers. But you add up all those 1%ers, and that's what these anglers out on the water are. They are the people who put together those little things. I should be doing, I should be here, I should be doing this, and it should happen around this time. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen.
No.
But putting those different indicators together can definitely lead to success. And the old, you know, 10% of anglers catch 90% of the fish. They're those anglers that are looking at those.
And we're probably looking at the 1%ers out here at the moment. You've got 38 anglers who are probably amongst the 1% of fishermen and fisherwomen who catch 99% of the fish. They're just they're good at what they do, and it does become about those little percentile increases. It's one of the things I love, the fact that fishing tackle these days, especially the stuff that Shimano does, you can buy such good gear without breaking the bank. I wish there'd been gear around like that when I was a young bloke growing up, because good gear back then was actually in real terms, in terms of how many hours you had to work to be able to afford that reel was actually more expensive than it is today, especially at the same level of quality. You know, you can go out and get something like a Shimano Vanford or a Nasky.
I was about to say the
The
Nasky.
Nasky
So
is
the
just
new
crazy.
Nasky this year that we released it after, the first samples came into the office and my boss picked it up and he wound it and he was like, this almost feels like a Stella did 20 years ago. He's like, it's so good what you can get.
Well, it's
for
got some of the features out of the Stellas in it, hasn't
but
it?
they're absolutely amazing, beautiful, smooth reels. If you said, Josh, you can only go out there and fish, a set of Naskies and a set of Ascensas, no worries at all. You could quite easily get into a proper brim combo to go out and fish today for $400.
Oh yeah, and the nice thing about that is because you could buy the reel for $200 or less, the rod for $200 or less, you can actually, a lot of people can afford 2 or 3 outfits. Whereas if you saved up and bought the Stella and the absolute top of the line rod and you were spending well over $1,000 on the outfit, you might only be able to afford one. There's a lot to be said for having 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 outfits. Most of these guys have got quite a few on board.
Yeah, yep, and they'll have them rigged. You'll see if we go back to Chris Hickson quite famous for having, I've seen him with, nearly 20 rods on the deck of his boat, but he will have the same plastic with different size jig heads, for different depths. He'll have, the same lure into it, like the same hard body in 2 or 3 different colours. It is a big advantage to be able to just put one down, pick another one up that you need for that exact.
Well, you were talking about Carl Jochimson before. I've seen photos of some of his arsenal of gear before he goes into one of those American bass tournaments. And it looks like a tackle shop. It's just crazy. Mind you, you do have to be a little bit careful in some Australian jurisdictions now. You're only allowed to have a certain number of rigged rods on the boat at a time. So don't fall foul of the law by having too many rigged up. There's probably a lot to be said for having them leaded up and ready to go and then tying. Or it's funny, I've never been a big fan of clips, but if you can find a good strong clip, I use those mustard fast hatch. They're good, but they're a bit fiddly to put on some lures. But I've started using them a little bit more than I used to in the past. Apart from anything else, the old eyesight's not what it used to be, and I struggle to tie knots as well as I did in the past. But yeah, just make sure you don't fall foul of the local laws. Let's go back up and have a look. Peter is still on his just over 7 kilo bag, so it doesn't look like he's been able to increase that. Daniel Kent is still sitting in second on 6.58 kilos. Then we've got Mitchell Blomqvist, Declan Betts and Steve Pryke.
I do feel like Declan Betts was Declan there before?
He may have come up a little bit, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Stephen Pryke still searching for that kicker, I think. But I think 6 kilos will have him. I think 6 kilos will put you in striking distance, but again, we're back to that.
You'll certainly be top, you'd have to think you'd be top 5, wouldn't you?
Well, at the moment, we're looking at the top 6. I mean, Jared Healy just scraping in under the 6 kilo mark for 5 fish just shows the potential of this fishery and, how amazing it is.
And then, this tournament pays down to 7th position. And if you come in at 7th, you pick up $1,000, so you get double your entry fee back. So it's quite nice. I mean, almost 1 in 5 of these competitors is going to finish in the money, which is fantastic. All the money goes back into the prizes. As we said before, first prize is going to be around $7,000, and then it goes all the way down to $1,000 at 7th. So pretty serious money.
So we might do a full round of the top 10. So as we said, Peter 5. Daniel Kent in second place, 42, 39.5, 38, 38, 37. Mitchell Blomqvist, 41, 39.5, 38.5, 38, 37.5. Declan Betts coming in 4th place currently, 39.5, 39.5, 39, 38.5, 37. Stephen Pryke still up the river there searching for his kicker apparently. Might not have come through yet, but 5th place, 39, 38, 38, 37.5, 37. Jared Healy in 6th, 38.5, 38.5, 38, 37.5, 36.5. Cicluna in 7th place, 38.5, 38, 38, 36, 34.5. The other Peter from Hurricane, Peter Nord, in 8th place, 39, 38.5, 37, 33.5, 32.5. Tom Deere, as we've said, moved up a couple of spots, 39, 37.5, 33.5, 32.5, 31. And then rounding out the top 10 would be Mark Crompton, 37, 33.5, 33, 33, 33. So pretty like...
Yeah, and it's interesting when you look at that whole top 10, there's only a scattering of fish that are under that average size, the 34.5 that's the average at the moment. There's only a few fish in there. So you need, obviously, fish that are well above average to be up in that top 10.
It'll be interesting tomorrow also. We can see as we hit down around the 13, 14, 15, 16 mark even, they've got some very big fish. So Owen Pearce, Paul Holmes, Jason Mayberry, Peter Bacage having very good kicker fish. There's that
43.5 for Peter Bacage, yeah.
Was that nearly 1.9 kilo fish. So they've obviously found that class of fish.
Mind you, he's also got a 25 centimetre fish.
So
a bit of a
were
mixed
they
bag.
just, you know, were they just randomly stumbled upon a single one, or are they going to go back and they're going to expand upon that? Probably need to fill out their bags for today. They still have an hour and a half to 2 hours left. As Morgo said, it only takes 5 casts. In this case, it might only take 1 or 2. As we move down, as far as actual fish caught, down to 25th place, meaning we've got, you know, a couple down the bottom there, but we do know...
Has Morgo's fish come up yet?
We've got Morgo
there he
with
is.
one, yeah. He's got, that was 35, that one we saw vision of. And then, what else do we have to round it out, producer?
That's about it then. We'll probably wrap up this live coverage in a couple of minutes from the Shimano Victorian Brim Open here at Gippsland Lakes from the ABT HQ at Metung. We'll be back same time tomorrow, Josh and I, but there'll be plenty more updates throughout the afternoon. If you just check out the ABT socials, you'll be able to find links to the final scores for the day and also some more highlight footage. There's lots of video of fish being caught coming through, and once Nicole's had a chance to sort through all that, she'll be uploading some of those. So there's plenty more to look at as the afternoon progresses, and Josh and myself might have to sneak out and have a fish, I think.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea. We also might try and see if we can do some interviews tonight, get a little bit more information on what they're catching, and we'll tell them that we'll play those clips tomorrow. Tell us exactly what you did today so that the other competitors aren't going to know exactly what they're doing, but we'll be able to bring you that coverage tomorrow at about the same time, so 10:30 a.m. tomorrow, where you're watching us now. Come back and find us again,
And don't forget too, we'll have that start with all the boats starting from the same point here at Shaving Point in Metung tomorrow morning. If you're around in person, drop down and have a look, but otherwise we'll show you the highlights here on the live coverage when it goes to air at 10:30. Thanks for your time and for watching today. I know quite a few of you have stayed on for quite a long time to watch the coverage today. It's been great having you there. If there's anything in particular you'd like to see us cover tomorrow, talk about, ask the competitors, let us know in the comments and we'll do our best to take care of it. And until tomorrow, this is Josh and myself, Starlo, wishing you tight lines.
Thanks, Starlo.
Thank you.